Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. You know that song, you know that sound, you know what it means. That means it's the weekend, and it's time for the James Freel Show. I'm your host, James Freel, and as always, I'm very happy to have you with me. I think the show is officially moving over. Nah, not officially, but at least for the time being, it's moving over to Saturday for the week, meaning you're going to get the show on a Saturday. Because today, February 16th, 2019, that's the day in which the show is being brought to you. Like I said before, I'm very happy to have you with me, and looking forward to having this show with you. If there is a listener out there listening, happy to have you with me. As always, I'm going to bring in the comment about trying to draw a little bit back on the self-deprecation. You know, it is what it is. Jeez, Tom Brady. I mean, is he asking for controversy? I think he kind of is. I don't know, I'm looking at his Instagram right now. You win some, you'll lose some. You're Tom Brady, you got 6 rings. I think I already discussed that last week. So, so, this is the first week that I started my new job. My first ever real job. Jeez, how old are you, James? Are you 24 years old? Did it take you that long to get a real job? It did, because I'm a loser, and that's just the way that it is. Listen to me, shuffling papers around like I got a real show to provide for any potential listener out there that I'm probably going to regret in the future. It's about 8:17 p.m. again on Saturday. February 16, 2019, 8:17 p.m., and I am still here. I think I have an okay show prepared for you. Really, James, do you have any show prepared? Not really. I'm just gonna go ahead and ramble again like I always do. There you go again with the obligatory whenever you don't know what you're gonna say. Before I get into the rambling, and look, I did it there again, I'm going to go ahead and give the news for the uninformed. So top news, powered by Bing, not by Google, because I'm kind of sick of the Google people. Our top story, Texas border town fights construction of border wall, fearing it could displace homes. Local elected officials in several specific towns, including Roma and Homeland Security, have until September 30th to agree on where exactly the barriers go. This past week, the border security deal reached by Congress and signed by President Trump set aside $1.35 billion for fencing and barriers at the border. Apart from the national emergency Trump declared to secure additional billions for the border, the funding deal spelled out that a wall could not be built in Roma until there's more input from the community. Local elected, you see I compete there with the folks over at NPR. Local elected officials in several specific towns, including Roma and the Department of Homeland Security, now have until September 30th to reach agreements on where exactly the barriers will go. Yeah, it's a big news story. See, I always read it off and then I give my own little input. Basically, the top news that I'm aware of as your trusted news host, James Freel, is that President Donald Trump is going to declare a national emergency over this. Not giving my input because, as I always say, I'm trying to get listeners here. Okay? If I give my opinion, I ostracize. It's like if you're a mattress salesman in New York City and you say, hey, we're Mets fans here. It's not that you're anti-Yankee fans. It's that you've now ostracized anyone who is a Yankee fan. So, do with that information what you will. I'd like to get a count. If there's anyone out there listening, how many times have I said do with that information what you will? It's got to be quite a few times that I've said that. Top news in sports, Adam Silver on competitive balance in the NBA. We still have work to do. This guy looks really skinny. and he's got really big ears. How did that guy become the NBA commissioner? I mean, he's got to be doing better than Roger Goodell. Oh, James, are you really talking about NFL football? I mean, the AFL, I don't know what it was, the AAFL. I watched that game. It was actually my kind of football, but the thing is, I don't want to get football fatigue. I was watching Urinating Tree, who again is my favorite place to get sports commentary. He gave his input, and he was actually relatively pleased with how the league is doing. So, oh shoot, is this at 48,000 rate? I guess it is. You know, I'll go ahead and change it when I get back. I guess I'll record it at 48,000 hertz and then drop it down to that amount. Yeah, this guy looks like he has to go to a very specific place to get his suit to fit. And then it also, you know what he looks like? And he looks like all the political cartoons of former President Barack Obama. They always drew him with really big ears, which I thought was kind of offensive. This guy looks the way those comics portrayed him. He's got like that big of ears. Also, Colin Kaepernick got a huge settlement from the NFL, and he also signed a non-disclosure agreement. And I mean, I never really went one way or the other with that issue. But you know, it's like, if you're gonna stand for something, why would you sign a non-disclosure? It's like, stand for something or kneel, either way, whatever. I always thought, and I still do think, that Colin Kaepernick's heart is in the right place with everything he does. Whether or not I agree with him is irrelevant. I think everything he did, his heart was always in the right place. But it sounds like, for how much money he got, it sounds like he really had the league by the cojones. And to sign a non-disclosure agreement tells me that he really wasn't, you know, one way or the other. I don't really care. I don't want to say he was all in it for the money, but the evidence would suggest one way or the other. And I think it's kind of obvious which way that exactly was. Alright, moving right along, and it may sound like an edit there, but it was not. Top news in pop culture. Top trending news in pop culture. Alright, what do we got here? What do we got for today? Man, I really should research it. And this was the week I actually thought about putting effort in these, like I did in the summer of 2018 when I was actually putting effort into these. And I'm still not, but I'm still doing it. Not going to touch that one. Italian Renaissance muses inspire their descendants centuries later. Even though every day I work with the young contemporary living artists, I always like to look back at The Birth of Venus and see where I come from, by Claudia Lavagna. The woman featured in, something about, I can find a better pop culture story than that. Michelle Rodriguez sorry for how she defended Liam Neeson. Yeah, I heard about that. Liam Neeson said something pretty bad about, he said something bad. SNL takes on scandal from Jeff Bezos' selfies to blackface in Virginia. Yeah, that's rough. I know that's going on. I don't know if I mentioned that last week, but the governor of Virginia is probably still in hot water. He's probably waiting for the biggest news story to come in to take the spotlight off of him, because news just seems to move so fast these days. Especially, I mean, I wouldn't even say especially, I'd say because of social media. News moves so fast. So anyway, I believe Red Dead Redemption 2 released about 3 months ago, and NFL analyst speculates Cowboys could be landing spot for Adrian Peterson. What? What happens to Zeke, though? I mean, Adrian Peterson would probably be a backup, being just as good as the original, or possibly better. Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at memes now. And I can't be doing that if I'm actually thinking about running a podcast. And another thing, if I want to be running a decent podcast, I can't be not preparing for it. I can't just be enjoying my evening, smoking a cigar, enjoying a glass of whiskey, and then deciding, oh yeah, it's Saturday, I need to be doing my podcast. Anyway, so yes, Red Dead Redemption 2 was released about, I think it was late October, and today I finished the story. And I tweeted out a lot that I was unapologetically addicted to that game. I thought it was an amazing game, but more importantly, it wasn't just an amazing game. The game had an amazing story. It was better than a Quentin Tarantino movie. That's what I will say about say it. I thought it had an amazing story, and I think that's what made it so great. Like, the gameplay is great, and at the beginning I was skeptical about the first person shooter element of it, how you could switch from first to third, how you could switch rather from third to first person. But I'm gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert right now. If you're in the middle of playing Red Dead Redemption 2 right now, and you don't want it spoiled, go ahead and stop listening. Hopefully if you've made it this far, you stopped listening on your own, because this is not a good show. But the story, I would still give it a 9.7 out of 10. It was an amazing story, but I was a little bit disappointed with the ending. The game is very much like a choose-your-own-adventure game. Like a choose-your-own-adventure story, choose-your-own-ending. And that in that you get to choose how the game ends, what it does, which path you're going to take. And I made the right path, and seriously, spoiler alert again, I'm going to give a 10-second break to give you a chance to exit out if you have a million tabs open. Starting 3, 2, 1, 10 seconds, go. Alright, that was 10 seconds, so it might have been, but I haven't spoiled anything yet, so 10 seconds. I chose the path to help John instead of going with the money. And I'll admit I was a little upset that... I wasn't upset, it's what made the story great. But the game really leaves you with very few allies. You know, you went through so much with all of these people, and you wind up with very few allies. And I think throughout the game, you generally speaking do the right thing, or you're prompted to. The game sways you in that direction. And Javier, Bill, Uncle's not really relevant, but a lot of people left. You were able to rescue the proper people. And I don't know how interested I am in the epilogue, but I don't know. The game is still great, but it was the surprise that shocked no one how Micah turned out to be the rat in the house. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, the whole time when Dutch starts talking about who the rat in the house is, I'm thinking, okay, well, I mean, it could be Micah, but the game, it's so blatantly obvious that it's Micah, so I'm gonna stare in the whole direction. Maybe I've been so prompted to twists that I'm too stupid to realize what the real deal is. But yes, Micah's the rat in the house. He turns out to be the rat later than you would have expected. Dutch started suspecting a rat in the house before it actually happened. And now I need to go back and play Red Dead Redemption 1, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1. So, I mean, I don't know. There was a moment there. I was about to say I never trusted Micah, but there was a moment there when things were getting bad, and I'm like, okay, maybe Micah's not that bad, but he really was. And I mean, Dutch should have known. And today I was playing it, and you're on the mission where you're infiltrating the oil fields, and you're about to be stabbed, and there are two people. One guy's trying to stab you. There are other two people there with guns. Dutch has a pistol, and he could at least attempt to rescue you. And instead he just walks out the door, and he just turns his back on you, and you still escape because I can't think of the Native American's name, but he rescues you and winds up getting injured in the process. And after that, I'm like, we can't trust Dutch. We can't. And I guess at the end of the game, you don't get the satisfaction of killing Micah, but at the same time, you don't get the pain of Dutch trusting Micah. It's like Dutch figured out what happened, and maybe he still lives by his code for all I know, but you're still the one who suffers the consequences of it. So I don't know. You do what you do. Imagine AB and Le'Veon and Pittsburgh on the same team as Juju. Imagine how deadly that trio would be with Big Ben. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It was a great game. It really was. The ending, like I said, it's really sad that Arthur goes the way he does, because I tried to make him as honorable as imaginably possible. And what's great about the game is it almost like explores your own human nature, because you as a human, you're not going to be honorable all the time. And every time I would get my honor high, then the urge to just be dishonorable would come up. So I don't know. I really don't. Great game. And this is coming from someone who did not play Red Dead Redemption 1. I mean, the original. And now I want to go play it, even if it does have more clunky features, or if it's not as easy to play. I don't know. Let's move on here. I think I've talked enough about the game. It was a great game. And James, didn't you just say that you wanted to move on from the conversation? I don't know. Let's see. Let's move on. So like I said, I started my new job today, and I do feel like I'm going to fit in relatively well there. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to ramble about this, because I'm so taken in at the ending, and luckily I have a few saved slots, because there were many side missions that I didn't touch that I would like to, and I would like to finish the game at 100%. It's going to be tough to finish the last thing, because like I said, I'm so absorbed by how much this ending touched me. I really hope I figured out how to turn this over to the appropriate level of hertz, because I hope you're not hearing me in my full quality voice. I like to hide behind distortion. That's an opinion I've always had about amateur musicians who are very enthusiastic about using distortion when they play guitar. Distortion makes you sound cool. It makes you sound okay at the instrument, but I think it's easy to hide behind distortion, to hide behind it. Hey James, do you want to defend that point of view? No, not really. It's like you put this giant crowd in front of you, and this crowd is really cool, but you're still in it, and you're still putting your name on the whole crowd. So I don't know. Where am I at? I gotta say, this half hour is going by pretty fast. For as much as I'm babbling about video games, it's still I gotta think there's still probably some great games that... This can't be the first one, but it's gonna be very difficult to create a game that wasn't as touching and amazing as this one was, and to have such great gameplay accompanying it. I don't know, I had a friend back in high school who is now an incredible guitar player, and I'm not going to say more than that except this, because too much would give it away, but he was talking about Red Dead Redemption, and it was made by Rockstar, and he was always telling me, dude, this game is amazing. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but in the Wild West. And it never sparked an interest with me, but now I've got to go back and play that game. And that same guy liked the tweet I made about how I just finished the game, and it was a great game, but an even better story. I don't know. Screw Micah. I guess it just sucks that you know what, this is officially my reaction podcast to that game, because I seem to keep coming back to that topic. It's like, fine, if you're gonna make him the blatant villain that it's obvious that he is, then at least give me the satisfaction of killing him. But you couldn't give me that, could you? You just couldn't. Oh well, this is episode 60. This week was Valentine's Day, and my special lady and I, we went to a restaurant that I talked about last week being a nightmare. And we had a good time because our waiter didn't try too hard, and I got the steak that I got last time. That was great. It was delicious. Didn't require steak sauce. Had a good iced tea with it, and they brought out the little sugar tray with it, so you could have it. It had a spoon and a lemon. Iced tea is one of the most refreshing things on the planet. I really like iced tea. I haven't heard much of the musician Ice-T's music. This afternoon I turned on the television, and they had this infomercial for, it was Time Life, and they've been doing infomercials as long as I can remember watching television. And don't let me lose my spot, because I'm about to hit the G-dang pause button. But yeah, it was this infomercial on the Country Music Awards. The first Country Music Awards, I learned, took place in 1967. But the first televised Country Music Awards took place in 1968. And it just had all like the greatest performances from it and all that jazz. It's only 8:41. I still got an evening ahead of me, he told himself. Country Music Awards, and it was fun to just sit there and watch like everything from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s and even to the 2000s to songs that I remember, and even Taylor Swift was included in it. And I couldn't help but imagine to myself a bunch of senior citizens who grew up watching these awards and thinking to themselves, like, oh my goodness, yes, I love all these things. But then, like, when Taylor Swift came on, they were like, oh, that's not country music. I'm not gonna lie, I really like Taylor Swift's old, early work. And I like her later stuff, too. It's really catchy. I think her most recent album, it wasn't 1989, but I did really like that album. My special lady, she keeps me up to date on all of the Taylor Swift stuff, and I think she released an album after 1989, but for the last of me, I think that was the Shake It Off one. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the one that just got released. And when I say just got released, like, it was like, I think last year. I don't know, she's pretty talented. I mean, I've never had her as a heavy rotation in my Apple Music playlist. In fact, I don't think I've ever downloaded anything from her. And I mean, I couldn't care less if I was scrolling through. Let's go ahead. I've got The Tree of Forgiveness by John Prine, Fool by Joe Jackson, which is new, Machine Head, Deep Purple, Let It Bleed, Rolling Stones, Sail Away, Randy Newman, Way to Normal, Ben Folds, Natural Man, Lou Rawls, Ooh La La, The Faces, Asia, Steely Dan, Keep on Smiling, Wet Willie, Lonely Avenue, Ben Folds, Two Against Nature, Steely Dan. Yeah, I got a lot of Ben Folds on here. Late Registration by Convoy West, Trains of Europe Express by Kraftwerk. Yeah. Dookie, Green Day, Loving Arms, Elvis Presley, Trouble in Paradise. Now there's a good album. Harps and Angel, Randy Newman. I never explored that. Dark Matter, Randy Newman. That's a good one. Have I turned this podcast into just James Freel rambling off whatever his latest podcast, Apple Music. I was talking about Taylor Swift. I was just trying to prove to you that I do not have her in my rotation. Retweeted, do not open this thread. Let's see what's in it. Oh, it's just a bunch of doggies. Just a bunch of cute dogs. German Shepherds are my favorite. I can't wait to be able to own a place where I can own a dog. You rarely let on that you can be your own intense critic. More for Libra. How dudes ask you to be their that's funny. That's really funny. How much time have I got left? I've got about 2.5 minutes left that I still gotta fill. This could be the Wild West thing. I'm probably not gonna figure out how to put a cowboy hat on the James Freel logo. But if I can, for all I know it might be there, but it probably won't be, so no promises. If you're listening to this, you already know that it's there. Boy, am I tired. Boy, am I tired. Fiona looking large and in charge. Yes, she definitely is. The sad thing is she's definitely just looking like another hippo right now. Yeah, I definitely do. That was a funny thing. So, hopefully by next week, got a better show for you. I don't want to talk too much about my new job. It's going well. I shadowed 3 different people today. 2 out of the 3 were great. The third guy was kind of full of himself, didn't stop talking about himself and how amazing his life is, and I just kept stroking his ego. It is what it is. I still got about a minute to kill. This has been a lousy podcast. What else is new, James? In all seriousness, even by James standards, I'm not even keeping score anymore. That's how bad this show has gotten. But I'm still doing it. I'm definitely still doing it. I took apart a PlayStation 4 controller today because I was trying to lubricate up the circle button is getting stuck, and it's kind of annoying me. I don't know, first world problems, anyone? That's a good song by Weird Al Yankovic, and I was listening to him. I drove a new car, Chevy Impala, got that rental, did a good job, and the guy at the Enterprise store was really helpful to me. He helped me figure out my own dumb mistakes, because I'm a dumb human being. Alright, everyone, that's the James Freel Show for this week. That's the podcast. Have a good week, and I will see you next week. I didn't miss this week like I always think I might. Again, have a good week, and I'll see you next week.